Okay, for all people, this is really weird actually talking to a screen. For all people out there who use Discoverer, it was a wonderful tool in its day. Its day's come and gone, and we're going to replace Discoverer with a tool called Argos. What we're trying to do within the Argos project is actually review all the Discoverer reports, many of which kind of just repeat the same thing because they're written over time for slightly different uses. And that's come through and made a very complex system. There's over 500 Discoverer reports. So often people look at that great big list and, geez, I've got a lot of phone calls over the year. I can't find what I need. Can you get me this? And the whole aim for us is to reduce that list greatly using Argos and produce some key reports again that can be used in different ways so that people can find the data they need in a much more simple fashion. Within those reports, we've also cut back on the data produced. A lot of Discoverer reports go across multiple screens when you extract the data. They take a long time to extract because Discoverer was a simple tool and it produced only one view of everything. Argos can produce specific parts of reports very efficiently, and I'll show you that a bit later on. The other thing with Argos is it will not be running out of Banner Live. Any screams on the... Any screams yet? No. It will be running out of what's called an ODS, an operational data store, which is an overnight snapshot of Banner. Callista is way too big to handle Discoverer working on it directly. That's why it takes so long to work, and it's far too busy. Banner will have the same problems from the start because it'll be a huge database to start with. The standard these days is to make an operational data store, and reporting runs out of that. It's a database dedicated to reporting so that it will run much more efficiently for you. And people used to worry about relevance of data. Well, if you think about it, in Discoverer, if you run a report at 9 AM and then you get sidetracked, we all get sidetracked, and you get to it at 3 PM, that data is no longer relevant anyway. So if you run an Argos report at 3 PM, it would be as relevant as your 9 AM report. If, however, you did need direct data out of Banner for whatever reason, it would be the same process as it is now with Callista if you want a special, where you would basically raise a job to get in service now to get a special report produced. After saying that, it's probably time to jump onto the demonstration. So we've got lots of stuff produced, and a lot of it is proof of concept and working out how the system works, and we're getting past that now. The first one I want to show you is, if you're familiar with the old Cal 001, the calendar report out of Discoverer, that would be the same as PER 001. Why it's changed? Banner doesn't have calendars. Banner does everything on terms, but we don't use the term because we have terms that are terms, so it becomes very confusing. So we've decided to call them academic periods. Hence, this is called period 001. Now, if we look at the data produced, it's very, that's weird. It's very simple. If we look at 2019, this is our simplest output. We run the query, we get similar data here to what we get out of Cal 001. You'll notice the extraction date, which is standard to show the relevance of the data if you store this output. We have the academic year, we have the period. And one of the beauties of Banner is the name of the period actually has the year in it. So straight away it's relevant. Within that, you'll see 2019-10 appears twice, 30 appears twice. That's because Banner has sub-periods. Now we look at the sub-periods of summer A and B. But the output is you get the start and end date, the census date, you'll get the enrolment cutoff date when students can't enrol online anymore, and the dropout cutoff date. If you wanted to save these data, it's the cog at the bottom is the magic. Here we exported this all to export it to a CSV. Yep, I want to open that. And there it is. So you can play with your data. That's the simplest output. Now, if we move on from this one to one that's slightly different, oh, and up top there, I'll show you that navigation a bit later on. If we now look at program offering, which would be the equivalent of the old course 001, the course offering. So program offering, we run that. The reason we double click there, if we just jump back for a sec. We go to program offering again. It's got program offering here again, is that we can actually produce multiple reports off the one back end. But we haven't done that at the moment, so that we only get one, so it's a bit weird, but it will make sense. Program offering, so we fill in the parameters at the top. So let's look at 2019. And notice these populated. When I selected 2019, a little script ran that produced drop-down values in these two fields that will only ever give you results. You can't fill this out and not get anything. So let's just go for one school and we can grab educational D. That's like a noble school. I'm not worried about campus yet. Let's see. So we can run the query. So obviously the graph produced here, we've only got one school, so we're going to get a single. And number of programs by campus. Now we don't actually have any data at present, but if we click on here, we can drill. And now we've got the programs on offer by the school. It gives the standard output that we would have expected out of Discover as well. This gives a single row here. This will give a row per offer. So by campus, I think, yeah, just by campus. So if the campus is different, you'll get multiple rows. The status is active, so that's cool. So let's just pick one of these. There we go. If we do the output using the cog from this table, you would get one row per offer. This shows you the majors that are attached. So if we, Bachelor of Industrial Design, the major is, that's the actual name of the major, that's the major. So if we combine these, you get multiple row output. So this one will give you a single row. This will give you a snapshot. What we call these are quick views. Now, this will give you, if we clicked on the cog, we could export that data and you get one row. So that's great, the offering. If we go up to reports up top and we go program offering and we run it, so here we get multiple rows where we've got the majors and the minors included in this output. That's how you get the more complex ones. Now, I'll show you a better example of that later on. But basically, Argos, when you put in your first parameters, you get graphs and you can drill from those graphs. When you drill, if we say looked at what's on Parramatta campus, this is only giving us Parramatta. That's fine. If that's all you want, you can export that. But by going up here and running this report again, you will get them for every campus at present, because if we go back, it runs off these parameters. And at the moment, it's only looking for the year and the school. It's not a training session, so let's not worry too much just yet. Another good thing about Argos is we have this what we call a breadcrumb trail up here, so I can jump back quickly to the index. So that was program offering. Let's look at program enrolments. This would be the equivalent of the ENR 001. Let's go for autumn. We're restricted to a school, I think. Let's go for business because it's first. And we'll just run that. Okay, we've got 874 students. If you're working in business and that looks a bit low, don't worry, it's test material. This little window here gives you an overview. It'll give you the program and the number of students in that program, a bit like Stat 001 would in Discover. We can drill from that. So we want to have a look at, this one's a bit better because it's fewer students. We click on that. We get our student list there. It produces the usual stuff we would expect, who the student is, what campus they're on, what program they're in, their GPA, their attempted credit points. And again, we could export that by the COB, or we could export the summary by the COB for the school. Now, if we look at the top, we can change all this anytime we like because we can just change the parameters and run the query again. If we looked up here, we have optional parameters and other full parameters. These optional parameters let us run for different cohorts of students. So if we wanted to run business students and we only wanted to find, let's say we want Indigenous business students and we run the query, do we have any? Yeah, we do. That's good. So straight away we've now we can get that list of just the Indigenous students if we wanted. We could go for international students, college online students, Sydney City and OES students. By default, it's set to all, so we get all students. You don't have to play with that normally, just in here. Now, if we look up here, we've got different outputs. Student details, if we run that from memory, it's got to be named better than this. But remember, this is development and testing. So we open that one. This gives us their contact details. And so that's why I say it's got to be named better. So by simply filling in the parameters up the top here, and then we run the query up here, we can say we want only the contact details. So for obvious reason. Enrollments by school and program. Student program, if we run this one, this is the same report, but it's going to give different output. The beauty of this output is that, unlike Discover, where the back end produced all this data and then we just, in different sheets, we just gave you different little bits, snapshots of that data. These reports up top run on their own specific script. So it's only pulling this data, which will be much more efficient. We can make any output we like based on these parameters. So my next little appeal, I think that's enough to just demonstrate a bit of a quick view of Argos. My next little part of this is we need volunteer testers to look at Argos and probably banner it overall as well, because these reports won't produce what you really want, I'm sure. There's many ways you need to look at the data. We need to know that before go live date. My little quip here is that you will be testing, we'll all be testing. Do you want to test before banner goes live or on go live date, when you hold your hand up and say, oh, it's not doing what I want, can you help? And the answer will be, we're really busy, log a job. If you're interested in helping test and defining what you want in these reports, who we would send an email to the...
You can send it to the SMS project email address?
I think that's my spiel. It's really weird talking to a screen.
Does anyone have any questions in regards to the reports? So some of the previous questions that we've had in regards to report are around will all existing Discover reports be kept and replicated in Banner?
No. We're reducing them, like I said, and trying to cover them off in a much more efficient way.
So there's a question about, can we download graphs?
Yeah, but why? Once you get it in a spreadsheet, you can make your own graphs. It just slows the system down.
Okay, another question that we've had previously is that Callista's not good for historical data. Is Banner better at this?
Depends on your historical data. Banner and Callista are both live databases. At the program level, the old Callista course, the Banner program level, we'll only be producing data as of now. We won't be producing historic data. With subject or unit attempts, you can produce historic data. Historic data is always produced by the BI team, and they get the data from the government reporting. So if you want the load for last year, we get that from the government reporting team so that you get the official load. Both these databases, Callista and Banner, are live, so you get it as of now.
Okay. What about any special reports, scripts and one-off requests? Will they still be available, and how would people request it? Or can people request, or can they create it themselves?
We thought about letting people create their own Argos reports and decided against it for the same reason that we didn't let people build their own Discover reports. The back end of both these databases is complex, to say the least, and we really need to control what data people pull. So you won't be able to produce your own program, your own Argos reports. But if you do need specials, like I said, it would be log a job and systems would produce one for you.
So a general question we've had is, if there are known errors in Callista, in the data, how will this be resolved as part of the data migration?
If it's dirty data within Callista, we're trying to identify that and have it fixed in Callista before it's migrated. If for some reason it can't be resolved in Callista, we will then script it so that we clean it up in the migration. We don't want to do that.
So essentially, we've been working with the Callista data migration from Callista to Banner since the start of the project. So each round of data migration, we're bringing in new pieces of data into the system, which is why when you're looking at what Rob just showed you, some of the data is small and you're expecting more numbers because we're bringing things through as we go through. So as we're testing the system, configuring the system, we're looking at the data that's coming from Callista into Banner and being able to do some identifying data issues at that point. Also, when that data is coming through, there's a whole lot of rules and scripts that we're running against it to make sure that the data is as we expect. There's logic being applied to things like phone numbers, addresses, etc., as we go through. But obviously, when we get to a point where we're actually got people who are doing user acceptance testing and other testing activities throughout the project, we will be looking heavily at what the data looks like as it comes into Banner and making sure it actually represents what we're expecting it to represent. So it is a work stream of it on its own, which goes through the whole project.
Another question that we've had previously is around, what about password and login? Will it be the same as our WSU account or different? And what about Mac users? Do we still need Citrix?
So it will be the same credentials as your normal network password. password, and it will be single sign-on. And it is one of the, again, I referred to some guiding principles at the start. One that we do have, which is not just for us, but for all things IT, is any device, anywhere, all the time. So the banner solution does comply with that. So Mac users will not need Citrix for those things that are within the Ellucian banner ecosystem.
Okay, are there any other questions from anyone in the group? Thanks. A comment that this has been interesting and informative. So thanks, Michelle. That's great. So thank you, everybody, for attending via Zoom today. On screen now are some contact details. So if you do have any other questions, please get in touch with us. The more questions we can get, the more it helps us in our planning, because obviously there might be things that we haven't thought of yet or a different perspective that we haven't yet considered. So please send through your questions to us. We have a general email address. My email address is up there. Renee, who's one of the practice adoption advisors, her email address is up there too. And we also have information on the website. So the web address is there as well. We do have a newsletter that we put out each month. So please have a look at that. If you do not receive the newsletter and you would like to, send us an email through and we'll add you to our stakeholder list. So thank you again for attending, and please get in touch if you have any questions or comments.